Hi, I'm looking at some things concerning nuclear power. This is worldwide plants and their sizes and how many are operating offline, which is Japan basically. Shut down. And apparently Japan has 2 under construction, and China's got a whole bunch under construction. So apparently there was 2 in Japan that never shut down. It'll say null if it did never shut down. So these 2 have been running ever since 3/11. Null. So I'm not trying to be detrimental to the Japanese. I'm trying to be detrimental to the nuclear terrorists, GE, Westinghouse, whoever makes these things, and all the politicians who back them. So you can see these are the 4 to the south. They were shut down a couple days after the earthquake. And then of course the 6 at Daiichi, they say 5 and 6 were running. 5 and 6 were running for months after that. I think that's a bit crazy since they're had all kinds of problems. I don't believe that for a second. And these ran for 2 months afterwards. 1 through 4 ran for 2 months after the explosions. So people try and give information that's correct, but it's always questionable, especially mine. So here's the ones to the north. Were shut down on the earthquake day. Never restarted. Shut down in 2005. Oh no, sorry. Shortly before the earthquake. Shut down shortly after the, oh no, 98. Okay, so that was shut down. And then over here where I live in the Northwest, we have Trojan that was shut down in 1992. But all the stuff is still there in these water buckets next to the river. It's all still there. And then there's up here, Hanford basically, is a big radiation nuclear disaster all going into the Columbia River. So I'm going to look at Unit 3. And these are the best pictures I can find of it going critical. And that is not a wavefront of gas explosion, which would be equal, but this is definitely going up. Here's another picture, super white hot. White hot. And then you get this, not a mushroom cloud, but it looks a little similar to me. It looks a little nuclear to me. It certainly was powerful. And I think it went critical. So here's number 3 with all the fuel burning, is my guess. All this black smoke. And this one I wasn't sure about for a long time, but I think this is 3. I think this is 3's black smoke coming up. So one breath of that, you're done. And this one I wasn't sure of it when I saw it at first, but there must be oil because a drop of oil on water just spreads out for feet. So this must be the oil that came off all the pumps and all the equipment that doesn't work anymore here. And here's 3 steaming away. Look at all that. Look at all that. That is a tremendous amount of steam. The other pictures really don't show it. They just show steam right next to the buildings. So here's our fuel assembly, glowing blue, and if you didn't have the water around it, of course, it would melt in a couple minutes. And why is it white hot up here? I don't quite understand why it's white hot. So here's Daiichi. This is one of the, you try and find the right diagrams for this stuff, and this seems reasonable. So here's the fuel bucket. See, it's deeper than the equipment bucket, but I do think they probably did, once this one filled up, they started putting them in here because some scientists calculated that 6 feet of water above is as good as 14 feet. I don't know what they decided, but even the Trojan, all the stuff's still sitting there when they closed down in 92. So they have no long-term solution to anything. Now, some people were saying these are fuel rods. So maybe the fuel assemblies blew apart and these are fuel rods. I can't swear to any of that, but there sure are a lot of them here. I don't know what they would be if they're not those rods. So here's 3 metal. Look at, there's no roof. It's all melted. It's all blown away. It's not hydrogen. Look at this. It's blasted. Here's another picture of 3 rods from blown apart assemblies, and then they sprayed green grass to grow. I guess they want green grass to grow. I don't know what they sprayed, probably something, and they had a big conference about it to tell me how smart they are. So here's a before picture. I can tell because this one's green, so this one's later, because it's hard to date anything in any of this unless I went to wash it from day one, which I didn't. So here's a hole where the water bucket is for 3 fuel. And then apparently they're saying they're going to repair everything and then get all the fuel rods out, or the fuel assemblies. So they're going to put this stuff around and make everything stronger. But if these are the containers, there's nothing in them. So this is about a month afterwards, earthquake, there's nothing in them. And it says 16 sieverts, and 5 will kill you, so I'm assuming they have water in here now, so I'm assuming this camera's moving the water, but I don't know. And this might say what unit it is, but it's just more information that's sort of there. Sort of information. Here's 3. All this steam coming up. 4 is still not blown up, but it looks like it's steaming a little, some from that side. There's 3 again. How long can the water last in those buckets if you don't put new water in them? Not too long, I wouldn't think. That's a lot of water boiling off. There's 3 again. Hole, melted, missing metal. And it's not a hydrogen explosion. It's not a gas explosion. I know it's getting old, but I'm going to keep saying it. There's 3 again. Missing, no roof. Nothing here. It's all gone. And this just all looks melted by itself. It doesn't, it just looks horrible. So then they removed all the trash, and supposedly they're making all this better, and they're gonna take out the fuel assemblies that are no longer there. This almost looks inserted. It's all so nice and clean, except for all the garbage that fell in. But there's absolutely no water in that. Big cement slabs to cover up the hole. Now here's just a picture of 3 and the date. So 10 days after, it was still steaming. And I'm sort of thinking that's steam from the ground from down below anymore, because how can there be any water in the water buckets at that point? I think it all melted down and getting in the groundwater, and that's where the steam is coming from. That's my opinion. So here's the fuel assemblies in the rectangular cement containers in the wonderful days when everything was great here, and they had just planned to keep the fuel waste until they died, and then they wouldn't have to worry about it. And the next 1,000 generations can worry about it. So here's that, nothing in there again. So I'm going to say before and after. All gone. So here's 3 there. This is after they sprayed the green grass to grow. They're either hiding the building or reinforcing it, or both. Now I think this is the best picture of anything with number 3, because here's the crane, and it looks like it's all melted right here. I don't see any metal here. It's all dark. And I wish I had some pictures of 2 foot away. You see how it's melted, but this is the best picture they give us that I can find. But I think it's the most telling picture, because how can a crane be melted in the middle from a gas explosion? No. No. So then they go through all the computer graphics and tell you how they're going to save the planet by removing this piece of metal. See, they know exactly where everything is, and they're going to repair it and remove it, and everything will be good. See, we got a big crane. There, we got it out. Got it out. Now we can get at the fuel bucket full of water with melted rods. And then they put this cap over it. They didn't put a crane in there. It was remember it as being blue, and it was all remote controlled, because you can't have humans working in there. Look at the building. So then they have all this information, but they never tell you where they're at. They say, oh, here's all these photos, and here's what the photos were taken, but no unit, no date, just information that's basically sort of useless. It's not scientific information. If you don't have a date and what it is, it's just no. And then they're putting up power, but there's no date, of course. So you had to follow this from day 1 and keep track of everything, which I didn't, to know when this was happening. And this is what happens when the nuclear fuel industry makes a wish and pulls on the bone. No one gets it, because it's a bunch of terrorists that are killing the planet and murdering all the people.